I too would work with the new mayor and the council as well, and your fire department, your police department, to address issues like this, specifically with this engine, with this fire station. As George alluded to, the same problem that we're having in the police department, it's the same problem you're having in your fire department. It's the same problem you're having in all of our public services departments. I've been solely endorsed by the San Jose Fire Department, by your San Jose Fire Department, been solely endorsed by your San Jose Police Officers Association, because they understand that I know the issues, I've lived them with them, and they know that when I get into office, I'll support them and I'll support you in getting these services back.
So Fire Station 30 is at the end of my block. I have the house that burned across, or it's next door to the house I own, the house that burned across the street from the fire station. I was completely amazed that you would have a major piece of fire equipment in a fire station that can't move water. That makes absolutely no sense to me. A fire station is there to put out fire. You need water to put out fire. What I would like to propose is that we talk about making sure that every fire station has 2 pieces of equipment there, because they used to have them. The equipment didn't vanish, it just got moved away. So that firefighters can be trained and cross-trained on both hook and ladders and on fire engines, so that they can take the appropriate rig out when they need to go fight a fire. If it's in a high-rise, they'll take the hook and ladder. If it's in a house that's across the street, that's a wooden house, they're going to take the engine so that they can actually put water in the fire and put it out. And those are things that I will bring to City Council. It's the collaboration and changing the way we do business.
So this was an easy question. We all agree, yes, a fire station should have water to put out fires. I agree as well. Let me tell you what I disagree with some of my opponents here. The cause of all of this is the lack of money in the city. We do not have sufficient funds in the city of San Jose to provide all the resources that you as residents and taxpayers deserve. And until we deal with that problem, we will not have any number of services that we deserve. And the problem is we need to tackle pension reform. Otherwise, we will have this large unfunded liability that eventually will bankrupt the city, as it has bankrupted other cities, and there are plenty of other cities in California that are on that trajectory. We need to work on that. We will definitely focus, I will focus on this particular fire station, but there are lots of other services that deserve our attention, and we don't have the money to do it. And until we get that money, you're going to be unhappy as residents.
And we have a
I'm really happy Don mentioned that the problem is pension reform. So what you were told about 4 years ago now was that your public employees were unwilling to compromise in sitting down and negotiating new pensions. What I'm sitting here holding is one of the contracts that we had proposed to the city of San Jose, a copy of it. I was one of the officers. I still have a 90% pension. That has not been changed. You have not seen any savings with any of your Tier 1 officers. When this contract was coming through, I was one of the officers that said I would be willing from going from a 90% pension down to a 75. We were willing to compromise. We weren't allowed to. That's what I want to get in there and change.
So, I did not say that the problem was pension reform. I said the problem was lack of money. 8 years ago, we did not have enough money to build the park in Tamian. That's before Measure B. 8 years ago, there were a lot of problems in this community that still have not been resolved. All of that's before pension reform. The problem is a lack of money in this community that has been building over decades through a number of bad policies over decades. We want to shoot the messenger and say Mayor Reed, who's trying to work to resolve this problem, is the problem, but he's not. It's the lack of money.
I'll use my second one? Sure. So, sorry, it's turning into a debate. In fact, I have to leave in 5 minutes because I'm going to go to work tonight as a police officer in your community, as I've been for the last 7.5 years, because we are so severely understaffed. So I've been showing up late some of these nights, but tonight I won't do that. So the problem is the lack of leadership, poor leadership. Okay? We could have already had over $24 million in savings with this contract from Tier 1 officers. 0 has been saved. Our pension fund, in the way that we've been investing it, we could have already seen over $90 million in our investments of it. That's your poor leadership that's not showing you those funds.
So the problem of pension reform doesn't exist only in San Jose. It exists in the county. It exists at the state. It exists in the city of Los Angeles. It exists in all sorts of communities across California. We have had fantastic leadership to tackle this problem head on, and we need to finish that work.
We'll have Mr. Mejia with the rebuttal.
So let's go back to the types of words that we're using here. Let's not let words of fear start to guide us into making the wrong decisions and continue to make the wrong decisions. We're not talking about weapons of mass destruction here, guys, that got us into a bad situation a long time ago. It's the same tactics that are being used. You're hearing Detroit, you're hearing these big words of fear. We have the solutions. We're not compared to Detroit. We're not Detroit, and we do have solutions. You heard one tonight. I'll give it to Raul. You heard a solution tonight. Those are the type of solutions and those are the types of leadership that I want to bring to City Hall.
I'll tell you, I didn't hear any solutions. This is a math problem. The city does not have enough money. It has an unfunded liability in the pensions. And what happens if there's not enough money, then the general fund backs it up. And the general fund money that goes to pay for pensions doesn't go to pay for services in your neighborhood. And that will continue and continue till eventually there are $0 to pay for services in your neighborhood. So unless we get pension reform, we will not have money for services in the neighborhood.
So there's more than one way to solve a problem. And I believe in collaboration. I believe in listening to all sides. And I believe that we need to work together to find real solutions. And that's my style of leadership, and that's how I will lead. And I think that those types of things matter.
Is that a rebuttal? Yeah. So let me just say, this is going to get negotiated once the campaign is over. And the polarization is coming from the unions because they want to undo the will of the people voting for Measure B by 70%. And it will get negotiated. And by the way, the fact that you have mayoral candidates saying one thing and another, because nobody's paying attention to our race, doesn't mean they're not negotiating behind the scenes. I litigate for a living. I argue in court with an adversary all the time, and then we go back to our offices and we pick up the phone and talk to each other. That's how it's done.
Thank you. And Mr.
Just really quick, I don't mean to belabor this.
Yes, thank you.
I want to try and just simplify this. All of us, I even believe John, who's not here, I may be speaking for him, we believe in pension reform, okay? We do. It needs to happen. We need to save some funds there. I agree with that. I think most of us, the problem is the way it was handled. I'm a union member because I've been a teacher for over 15 years. I believe in collective bargaining, sit down at a table and hammering out a fair deal for all sides. That is what I believe is the crutch of this. Let's sit down, negotiate. We will end up with savings, plain and simple.
Thank you.
So as I say, I predict it will be negotiated, but when people say that Measure B was improper, what they're saying is the democratic process going to the voters to make decisions about their lives and their pocketbooks is wrong. It's never wrong to go directly to the voters and say, make this decision for us. There were 2 years of negotiations. I don't know who was right or wrong, but the voters had to come in and decide.
All right, thank you very much. We come to our conclusion, and we're going to start with you since you have to leave.
Okay, so I'd say at 8:30 right now, I'm on my way out. And Don did mention something right. It actually is a math problem. I'm a math major. I graduated from San Jose State with a math degree. In fact, I'm a mathematician. It is a math problem. It's also a people problem. He also mentioned that everybody cares about the mayor's race, nobody cares about our race. I don't think you'd be here tonight if you didn't care about this race. And I know you care about this race as much as I do. That's why I'm running. I never intended on being a politician. This is nothing I ever dreamed of, okay? This was because I've been a lifelong resident of San Jose. I've been a community member, an active community member. I've been a police officer. I'm going to go to work right now, put the badge on. When the call comes to duty, I'm going to go put my life on the line for it because this is what I love doing. When the problem started happening in our city about 4 years ago, when we started getting attacked, when your leaders were pitting your public employees against you and saying that we were the problem, when they weren't willing to negotiate with us, when they were telling you lies, that's when these problems started. I want to get back and fix that. And I think you actually hear it from 4 of us up here that are saying, we need to go back and we need to work together on this problem. That's what I want to do. I want to work with you to fix these problems, to bring us back to the safest big city in America again. Thank you. I apologize for you.
Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. I know I appreciate your interest in this. And one of the things I do want to say is that District 3 is the most complicated district within the city of San Jose. You have the most affluent, you have the most needy, you have the business center. We need an experienced leader with a broad range of qualifications. I started my own neighborhood association. I owned my own business. I managed the West San Carlos Street Neighborhood Association. I was hired by Nancy Pyle as her economic development policy analyst. I was promoted to chief of staff. I understand how city government works from the lens of the resident, the business, and also the policymakers. And I feel that that experience will lead me to be an effective advocate for you. In addition to that, I'm a member of the San Jose Parks Foundation. I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Open Space Authority, and I co-chaired, like I said, the Deer Dawn Arena Strategic Plan, which is a huge development plan. So I understand development and its impact on the city. I have been endorsed by 6 former female candidates. I've been endorsed by vice mayors, or council members, Vice Mayors Judy Turco and Trixie Johnson. And I've been endorsed by council members Nancy Pyle, Nancy Iani, Charlotte Powers, and Judy Stabile. These women were council members. They led at a time when the city was a different city, when we worked together to solve problems. I want to bring back that to city council. I am so proud of those endorsements. I also have the endorsement of the National Women's Political Caucus, Dawn, which is the Democratic activist for Women Now, and I've also been endorsed by the Santa Clara County Democratic Party. These are important things. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
So, thank you again for being here tonight with the Sharks playing, and I know I'm going to try to run back and watch the end of the game. These 1 minute 30 second responses don't give us enough time to really fill out our responses. So I urge you to go to my website, donforcitycouncil.com. You can learn a lot more about me. I believe I'm the most qualified candidate. I have 20 years, as I alluded to, as a neighborhood leader in my neighborhood, working on battles that we've all fought in our neighborhoods. Also, I've spent a dozen years on the Downtown Business Association. I understand business. I'm a shareholder in my downtown law firm. I understand all that. But in addition to the experience, which I think has greater depth and is broader than any of the other candidates, I have a vision going forward, which is why I urge you to go to my website. And I have real solutions to the problems going forward. And I want to say something here tonight that I wasn't able to say at the last forum. 4 years ago, pension reform was not an issue in the council race. And I predict that 4 years from now, it won't be an issue either. We're going to resolve this next year when the race is over, because everyone has an interest in getting it done, including the union leaders. We need to get pension reform done. So when you're voting for a council person, you can't simply look at the moment here and now. You need to have a long-term perspective that I have in terms of where we're going as a city. I've been at this for 20 years, thinking about the issues that afflict this district. I know what's been happening. I remember when you were promised your heart. And I have a vision that looks beyond pension reform, because as I say, it's going to be resolved probably next year, and 4 years from now, it's not going to be an issue. And I urge you to think about that when you go to the ballot box.